Shalom. Should we give segregation a chance? I think we should. Of course, there's always been a lot of discouragement, a lot of defeatist mentality. The discouragement coming from, obviously, the other nations, telling us simply that we can't do it, telling us that if we dared detach from them and their great creation, we would be relegated to living in grass huts and taking cow piss showers. That is the best that any black race can do on this planet without the involvement of our Anglo saviors, without European involvement, without Asian involvement. The best we can hope for is to be, living in grass huts and not even being able to have running water. This is how they frighten us to not truly oppose their system to the degree that we really have all rights to oppose it. The notion that we'll kick you out. The notion that they'll send us back to the fly infested shitholes. But there comes a time when you have to call the bluff. And yes, it is a bluff, because when you truly consider what these people are trying to do and the leaders and rulers behind them, this is a return of the globalization effort that was first attempted by Nimrod during the Tower of Babel. That's what we're seeing again. That's what the original Babylon was about, and that's what this daughter of Babylon is about. They failed many times throughout the millennia. And this is just another attempt. But this is the last attempt. So, without us, their globalization does not work. So there's always been a bluff. The notion that they'll kick us out if we get too rowdy. There's always been a bluff. The notion that they'll send us back to the shitholes if we cause too much of a commotion. It's been a bluff by people who truly have not had the winning card in their deck. We are the ones that hold that winning card. We are the ones that determine whether or not this globalization effort succeeds or fails, not them. That is the truth behind all this. Now see, there's always been a disconnect amongst the white gentiles and the people that truly lead them. The white gentiles always wondered, why don't we get rid of them? But see, the white gentiles have been lied to this whole time as well. They've been made to believe themselves to be far more necessary than they truly are. And it's been all for the purpose of having them go around the world and do the things that they've done to lay the foundation of the globalization efforts. See, they had to have their egos inflated. They had to have their beliefs about themselves raised to near deity levels. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had the nerve to go around the planet and engage in the conquests that they did. And that's always been the case. Back in the past, they used to do it underneath the notion of spreading Christianity. Then during the early 20th century, it became about fighting the communists. Then when the 21st century came around, it became all about fighting terrorism. And then that morphed into spreading democracy and The latest one, I believe, is humanitarian crisis. Yeah, they send in their conquesting forces to stifle a humanitarian crisis. So it's always been, these efforts have always been undertaken via a position of delusions of grandeur, a position of having the moral or even godly authority to do these things. And that truly is at the root of the concept of white supremacy. It's like a side effect of it all. When you constantly put these ideas in people's minds so that they'll go out and do your dirty work, the consequence of that is that they actually will start to believe those things about themselves. And as a result, they'll form supremacist mentalities. So that's where the disconnect between the white Gentile, the white heathen exists, and their masters. Their masters know the truth. Their masters know it's all a lie that was used to get them to, do the dirty work. So when the white Gentiles wonder why they don't just genocide us, or when the white Gentiles wonder why they don't just crate us all up and ship us back to Africa, is because they don't understand that their masters know who truly is the catalyst to their globalist effort. And it's not the white Gentile. It's us. We're the ones that make or break this. And it's on many levels why it's us. One is that they're using us as human shields. In my last video, I said that they tricked us into their inner cities, and then they started building their cities around us. Well, that protects those cities from the true and full brunt of the Most High's wrath. Because if he were to rain down his vengeance on these cities, we would, of course, get caught right in the middle of it too, because we're right in the middle of those cities. So that's one reason why they keep us around. Because they think that it will prevent the Most High from just simply, pulling a Sodom and Gomorrah on them. And of course, the other reason is, if we are allowed to correct ourselves as a people, we'll eventually come to understand who we are again and, return back to our rightful heritage. So it's been two reasons to keep us around. One, to protect themselves from the Most High. Two, to ensure that we never truly return to being the people that we once were. You can't influence a people if they're not part of your civilization. You can't keep a people dysfunctional with all this ridiculous culture that they, and I use the word culture between two quotation marks, all this ridiculous quote culture, end quote, that they've hoisted onto us, that has us revere criminals, that has us worship destructive and dysfunctional behavior. You can't do that to a people if they're not literally living right next door to you, or in your civilization. So those are the reasons why the masters of these white Gentiles and heathens never did what the white Gentiles and heathens wanted done to us. Because the white Gentiles, because the masters of the white Gentiles and heathens know what's really up, while the white Gentiles and heathens do not. So I really do believe that besides all the effort to discourage us to disconnect from the system, we should be at the point now, or very close to the point, to where we're willing to throw caution to the wind, where we're willing to give it a chance. You know, let's try segregation again. You know, let's try it again. Now, that doesn't mean that we would be completely cut off from the Gentiles and heathens, because obviously that's not our role. We're supposed to be the priests of the world, so we have to have some kind of correspondence with them. But it would be completely on the level of teaching the world how to follow the Most High correctly. Those that did want to live amongst us, they would live amongst us in a lower status. You know, we would not be a new form of America where equal rights for everyone. No. Israelites of blood descent would obviously have a higher status. You know, and the alien nations that wish to live amongst us would be of a lower status. That would be an agreed, accepted thing. That's not, it wouldn't be like how we were brought into America, kicking and screaming and against our will. Those nations that wanted to live amongst us, they would know the deal going in, and it would be a choice. If they said okay, then hey, there it is. You agree with it, or they can go about their way. But that would be the only two ways of correspondence we would have with these other nations. Either as teachers, or them coming in and living in a state of indentured servitude. And we should really consider segregation. Seriously. You know, it really would balance things. When you consider that we were brought into this situation against our will, leaving it of our free will is balance. You know, choosing to disconnect from it is balance. But of course, like I said, the discouragement would be there. The doubt would be there, and it wouldn't all come from our enemies. It wouldn't all come from the other nation. It would come from our own people, particularly those that stand to gain something by our people staying part of this globalist agenda. You would see the most objection from it, from our own people, coming from those of us who already have a fairly high status in this civilization, of course. So if something like this was actually put into motion, expect every single Israelite celebrity to be against it. You know, they would be the most vocal ones amongst us. Probably after them, I would say those of us who are part of the religious system and the political system. You know, those would be the other group of Israelites who would be completely against it for obvious reasons. Political system, of course, you know why they're against it. But the religious system too, you know. You know, those that tell you to love unconditionally. Those who have conditioned us to forgive unconditionally. To forgive people who have not even repented, which is wickedness. You do not forgive people who do not try to do what's necessary to earn forgiveness. You don't just hand forgiveness out like it's candy. That is wickedness. That is evil. You know, so people like that would be against it. The politicians would be against it. The celebrities would be against it. The Probably many of the professional athletes would be against it. Yeah. And there'll be some dominations of our Hebrew Israelite community that would be against it too, particularly those who have latched themselves on to doctrines that state that we have been in the promised land this whole time. Yeah, those people would be against it, because part of the fueling of such a belief is simply the desire not to leave America, and it is kind of a hard pill to swallow, especially if you have some kind of foundation here. But even for the people who don't have much to lose, the idea of leaving this country, leaving this continent, and going literally to the other side of the planet, that's a tough one for a lot of people to swallow, no matter how much faith they have in the Most High. It's simply fear, because we're not really very nomadic by nature. The white gentiles, they have a very nomadic mentality about them. They'll up and move, constantly. They'll go from one side of the planet to the other over and over again, looking for something that they'll never find, comfort of soul. But we're not that type of people. Once we lay down a foundation somewhere, we truly expect to be there for the rest of our natural lives, and probably for the rest of our offspring's natural lives. So the idea of leaving one side of the planet and going to the other is a pretty tough one. To be segregated, completely segregated in that respect, but even just, segregated on this continent would be a tough pill for a lot of people, because of our own personal doubts and our own capabilities. Many of us don't think that we can even self-govern properly. And we are left in this state of this paradox-like state where we see the means that are used to govern over us as being unjust. But then when the alternative is self-government, we see ourselves as being incapable. And so that just leaves us in a state of a paradoxical state when you really think about it. It's like confusion, pure confusion. So that'll be another reason our own people would choose no segregation, because they just don't have faith in themselves. They don't have faith in their own race. They don't think we could pull it off. When the white Gentiles tell us that it'll be a wasteland, they'll nod their head in approval and be like, yeah, Negroes can't do nothing, right? Negroes can't make no economy. Negroes can't govern themselves. Quite often we'll talk worse about ourselves than our enemies will. But again, like I said, the time eventually comes where you simply have to throw caution to the wind. Yeah, truly, it may not be the best. Yes, truly, it may not be as pristine and as pretty as what these heathens and Gentiles have created. Hell, it might turn out to be one hell of a mess. But it's like that saying always goes. It'll be a mess that at least the Most High will bless. Shalom.